Hey guys. Hey. So I'm just gonna jump straight into the video. I had previously made this video, but I felt the Holy Spirit, I felt God telling me, I felt compelled to make it again, do it differently, excuse me, because the first time it was, probably like a little impulsive and not really well thought out, but I've had the chance to watch some other videos on this similar topic. Other young women, older women who have been through, other women who have been through my situation and who can understand and relate. So, kind of like bouncing ideas off of how to like tell my story and just, I had to pray about it like again this time, guys. And so, yeah, I'm like, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell the truth. Let me take a sip of my tea. I've got some hot tea, and I absolutely love my hot tea. When I tell you guys, I love it. I love it. And I got this tea bag. I'm going to make it so quick. From my job, we have these things called like rewards points that we can cash in. And it's like our own little store where we can just cash it in for stuff. And I got this like tea forte box, and I absolutely love it. It's got these triangular teas. Um, yeah, it's got these triangular tea bags, and I think it's super cool. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into the topic. So, I'm going to be talking about narcissistic parents, more specifically having a narcissistic mother, especially if you are a young woman. And now, I, like I said, I got my notes situated, organized down here. Um, you know, I want to talk about how Christ revealed to me what family dynamic I had. And I say family in quotations because family is not just who you are related to through blood or like DNA. Family are the people that show up for you, that care for you, that love you. So that's why I say family dynamic. Um, Essentially showing me what kind of dynamic I was involved in, what home I grew up in, and, you know, how growing a relationship with him has really helped me to be stronger, be bold, and to stand up against these types of individuals, essentially breaking generational curses in the bloodline. So, having a relationship with Christ is very, very crucial in general, and is definitely more crucial when you have demonic entities that possess individuals in your bloodline. So, the spirit of narcissism, or the Jezebel spirit, is very, very evil. And if you guys don't know who Jezebel is, I'm not gonna get into it here. I want you guys to go and study this for yourself. But basically, she was a woman in the Bible who was very evil. She convinced a man of God to turn on God and commit all types of atrocious acts against and terrible acts against people of God. And then eventually she ended up dying. Like, she fell from a balcony, like a really high balcony, broke her neck, and the dogs licked her wounds. But she's a very evil woman. Very, very evil. And her spirit still lives on in a lot of individuals. And I know the term narcissist is widely used today, but it still doesn't change the fact that there have always been narcissists around. That's just a word that people have finally come up with to help label it, so that to help identify it. They've labeled it this so that people could identify it. So essentially, I was breaking generational curses in the bloodline by not continuing that behavior. I'm going to get into how God has shown me through my relationship with Christ how it's been revealed that my mother is one of those people. And before I get into it, I do want to make a disclaimer. I am not making this video to trash talk her, to try to victimize myself, like so I can get a bunch of sympathy. this is really just to tell my story because nobody else can tell it but me because I'm the one who went through it. There are other people who've gone through it, but nobody has been Brianna, Elaine, Louie, and Glenn. Nobody has walked in my shoes. So I want to spread awareness. There are other young women my age, older women, people out there who have gone through it. There are guys who've gone through it too, and I'm gonna brush up on that a little later in the video, but that's really what it's about. It's just about spreading that awareness, not to trash talk her or anything of that nature, because people's actions are going to speak for themselves. But people need to know also that there's a specific group of people here on this earth that are very good at hiding who they truly are deep down inside. So that's what we're talking about today. So let's get into the first topic about my mother. I suffered a lot because my mom suffered. My mother got pregnant with I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three and the only girl. My mother got pregnant at 15, had my oldest brother at 16. And so you can imagine back then she didn't get to graduate high school. It was not accepted for women to really go to school pregnant. So she didn't get to graduate high school. And I guess for the longest time she felt like because she had my brother, he got in the way of her life and her being able to do certain things she wanted to do, even though it's not his fault that he was born. Nobody told her to do what she did with his father and bring him into this world. But, my mother was very abusive. My oldest brother, I said my mother was very abusive. And I'm sorry if I messed that up. If not, let's just keep it moving. But my oldest brother, he actually did not grow up with us. He was raised by my grandmother, predominantly raised by her. And the reason being is one day, I remember them telling me a story about one day my mom was so angry at my oldest brother. And this was he was less than 15? I said less than 15. He was younger than 15. So he really wasn't like a grown up or anything of that nature, not even like a full blown teenager. But my mom basically got super mad at him and she threw like a big object at him and it missed his head by this much. And if she would have made it, she would have killed him. So after that, my grandmother did not let him stay with us. She just kind of took that on herself. And yeah, that was that. That's something that got revealed to me earlier this year. I was like, wow, I kind of just realized that my oldest brother never grew up in our home. He grew up with my grandmother. So she basically felt like life was hard because of that, because of her having children. And she always had this mentality like, because she had to do things on her own, I had to do things on my own. My middle brother did not have to go through this because we were the only two that lived with her. He was the golden child, which I'm going to get into next. And there's nothing golden about it because you're dealing with a narcissist. You're dealing with someone who possesses a demonic spirit in them, which means, baby, there's nothing good that comes of that. But I had to do everything on my own. I had it hard. I had it rough. And it bred this hyper independence in me and these really big trust issues. I could not trust anybody. I was like, If people wanted to be nice to me, I didn't trust it. If people gave me compliments, I didn't trust it. To this day, I've gotten better at it, but to this day, I still feel weird when people compliment me. I'm just like, oh, thank you. And that's something, like I said, my Heavenly Father is still working on me with. And it's like, I can recognize my achievements and I'm confident in myself, but it still feels weird. I guess there's still that trauma there because I'm like, it feels weird to receive those compliments from people because, like, do I believe it? Are they telling the truth? Because growing up, my caregiver would say negative things about me, make me feel bad about being who I am, make me feel bad about the very things that people would praise me for or give me acknowledgement for. So, for example, when I got my very first car, she did not give it to me. My uncle, one of my uncles, he gave it to me, and he sold it to me for $1. I had a Nissan Altima, so you guys know how people with the Nissans are. We just ripping and running the road. But I loved that little car. Let's take a moment of silence, like shed a tear. I loved that little car. But anyways, I didn't get it. She didn't get it for me. She didn't help me get the car. She didn't help me get insurance. She didn't help me get a tag, put gas in it. She didn't help me do anything. My ex, really my only ex, the toxic ex that I have, he helped me at the time. This is like towards when we first got together. And I'm going to make a separate video on how, growing up with a narcissistic parent can lead to you being in narcissistic relationships and just different ways that you can heal from that. And I want to help young women avoid these mistakes that I made and some of these traps that I feel like were set for me. So he did that for me and I allowed it. He paid for the insurance. We went to this place. He paid for my insurance. He paid for my tag, my property taxes. He even filled my tank up that day. And, I had a job and stuff like that, but he really kind of like helped me get started. Those are things that my mom was supposed to do. And she would always, my mom, let's start. She didn't even teach me how to drive. I had to take this free course at school. Like if you had free or reduced lunch at school, you could take a free driver's ed course. I had to take the driver's ed course and learn by my school how to drive because my mom would never teach me. Or my cousin, I'm not going to say her name, but she would teach me. I almost say her name. All I said was you guys don't know. But anyways, she taught me how to drive. Other people would teach me how to drive. They would feel comfortable enough allowing me to drive their cars, but my mom never did. And so she didn't help me do a lot of things. And I felt like there were a lot of times I used to ask my mom, I'd be like, why do you always put the weight of the world on my shoulders? And she would tell me, this is to toughen you up. This is to teach you responsibility. I had to do it. Your grandmother made me do it. So now I'm going to make you do it. Your grandmother didn't get me my first car. So I had to go and get my own first car on my own. And your grandmother kicked me out when I was 16, 17. I had to get out and this and that. And so, she would always tell me, like, if you have a baby, if you get pregnant, you're getting out of my house and stuff like that. And, even though I wasn't like that, basically because of the poor decisions that she made and, the consequences she had to suffer, she never healed from that. She never, grew from that, matured. So I had to basically suffer the consequences with her, even though I am a separate person from her. And that's another thing. Narcissistic parents like to enmesh themselves with their children, basically as if we were joined together. We didn't have separate bodies, separate souls, no nothing. Like I'm just an extension of her, which is extremely unhealthy, by the way. And so it's like, hey, recognize me for the individual person that I am and not your shadow. So that was the first thing I really wanted to talk about, like her purposely watching me struggle. And like I said, I've always had to fend for myself simply because of her bad mistakes. When I graduated high school, it was very tough. She knew how important that was for me. On my graduation day, guys, that was like a traumatic day. She had kicked me out months before. I had to go stay with my toxic ex at the time. And I barely graduated high school. Like I almost did not graduate. Thanks to the principal that I had at the time, he saw that a lot of kids were struggling. And so he was like, I refuse. Like, I'm retiring this year. Y'all are going to graduate. Every single student, every single senior is going to graduate. And I'm going to make sure of it. And he did. Shout out to him. I loved that man. He was a God-fearing man. And he had a lot of love in his heart for that. But she did not graduate high school. So for her to see me graduating high school and it's like you think she would be proud of me, but no, she put me through a lot of extra stress that almost caused me not to. Like, God showed me more compassion, like seeing how I grew up and watching like kids who had to go through other things. Like when you have trouble going on in the home, and then you have to go to school and get bullied and just deal with all these personalities and all these people, and you have it rough at school too, but then you got to go back to even worse treatment at home. It's tough. That's really tough. So my heart goes out to people who had to experience that, and to the kids who are experiencing that now. Like, it gets better. It gets better as you grow older and try to form a relationship with God, and He can help you through it. And so that's the first one. The second topic, the golden child, which typically tends to be boys. If you have brothers, my oldest brother didn't, like I said, he didn't grow up with me and my middle brother. So my middle brother became essentially the golden child, and also what's known as the son husband. If you guys don't know what a son husband is, basically when a narcissistic or a toxic mother has a son and she's single, typically these are single women, there's no man in her life to play that role, and so her son essentially steps up to that role, and then they form this disturbing, disgusting connection, this mother-son relationship with each other. And basically my middle brother, he was like, he got away with being lazy, not doing a lot of things. Like, he even like had a fender bender in one of her cars, but yet to this day now she'll let him drive the car more than she lets me drive her car. And I'm like, I still don't understand that, but now I do. I never could understand it, but now I do. It's because she has created this dynamic where he has to be completely dependent upon her, and he gets whatever he wants from her simply because he basically bows down to her. He does not go against her or anything of that nature. So, and it's I feel sorry for my brother. It's not something to envy when you see people going through something like this. But essentially that's what that is. You guys see me looking down. I'm just reading my notes as well, making sure I'm covering everything. Hopefully my phone does not turn off. I'll make a part 2 if it does. You guys know me. When mothers practically slave the daughters, if you guys, my women out there, you can relate, treating us like Cinderella, making us do the cooking, the cleaning. If you're older, you got to raise other kids. You got to do all of this. Like, for the daughters that are older than their brothers, like, you got to practically take care of them, baby them. You get in trouble for every single thing, and they don't get it. It's like they are perfect. Like, they can do nothing wrong in her eyes. And so I suggest you guys go and watch other videos, especially on YouTube, about narcissistic mothers and the son husbands, or just look up son husbands in general. And there's so much content out there, guys, on this matter. It's essentially emotional incest between the mother and her child, and it's the most disturbing thing ever. It's not just in Black communities, unfortunately. It's this is not a race thing, this is a spiritual thing. So that's the second topic. The third topic, because I want to get this all in the video, is the jealousy and hatred that these narcissistic mothers show against their daughters. Especially if they feel like you're doing better than them in life, compared to where they were at your age versus you right now and where you are. I've watched videos on jealousy against their daughters, which showed itself when I had my daughter. For example, even though I had a toxic relationship with my child's father, I placed her for adoption. I'm going to make a separate video on telling my story on that, but before that happened, for example, when I got out the hospital with my daughter, my mom was like, yeah, you can come and stay with me, trying to be a great grandmother and everything. But she would come home, she would get off of work, and she worked second shift. So she got off like around 2:00 in the morning. She would turn on all the lights. She would talk on the phone, get drunk. My mother's a functioning alcoholic as well. So she would have, a little too much to drink. And then we would just get into it because I'm like, I'm supposed to be resting. You're supposed to be helping to take care of me so that I can take care of my daughter. Like, you're turning on all the lights, being loud, talking on the phone, and then telling me like, oh, well, if you don't like that, you know what? You can just go back to your place. I don't think this is going to work out. And I'm like, why would you invite me over here just to kick me out again? And that's another thing. When I did get pregnant, my mom kicked me out of her house, even though I was out of high school. This is when I was 20 years old. I was out of high school. She kicked me out. That's how I ended up getting my apartment that I had at the time, because I'm clearly not there anymore, but I'll make another video on that. But I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is absurd. Like, I can't believe you're kicking me out, for one, when I'm pregnant. And you know that I actually need a place to stay. Like, any natural mother, loving mother would have let her daughter stay with her and help her take care of her baby, or, you know, just give her the room to take care of herself, to get through potential postpartum depression, like not add on extra stress, sending you into a deeper depression. And then let alone invite you to their home and then kick you and your grandchild out, which is, she's known for doing that, like kicking people out when she doesn't want to deal with them. She just kicks them out. Like I said, she kicked me out months before I graduated high school, making it super hard for me to do what she couldn't do. And this, I'm glad I brought this back up, guys. This comes back into the jealousy thing. I couldn't see that my mother was potentially jealous of the fact that I was doing something that she did not do. Be mindful, my mother is not educated, meaning she does not have a high school diploma or a GED. She did not want to get anything, which makes her financial life and her in the workforce much more difficult, because we live in the United States of America, where if you do not have a high school diploma or a GED, the chances of you having a successful job are lower, unless you have like some kind of skill or trade, which she has none of the above. So I'm not going to really get into too much into her like personal business and stuff like that, but I feel like my mom is lazy. Right now she is on a break from her job. I guess I'd say with workman's comp, and it frustrates me, because she'll do things to inconvenience me, like the career that I have. I have a very great career where I work remotely, and God bless me with this career. I had to do a lot for this career. You know, I had to fight. It took me a long time to get it, but I finally got it. And so I see where my mom sees me living comfortably, doing things that she wish she could do, and she tries to make it harder for me. And I'm like she'll be loud knowing that I have to get up in the morning and do certain things. And, you know, she'll just, like, when I get paid, she'll try to be like, oh, well, you should do this for me. You should do that. Or she doesn't even ask. Like, she'll be like, go to the store and get me this, or do this and that and the third. Like, oh, Brianna, you should take your, like, if I asked her to use her car to go get my nails done or something like that, oh, well, you should pay for me to get my nails done. I'm like, no, I should treat myself, because that's what this is for, treating myself. Like, I appreciate you allowing me to use your car, which is another thing. Like, I couldn't wait to get my own car again, because I'm like, if I don't have to use her car, no. But it's like, you should allow me to just treat myself. If anything, you should be treating me. I'm your daughter, and you don't really do anything nice for me. So I've done things for my mom. I've taken her out. I've spent over like $400 on me and my mom in one day, just going to like Olive Garden, bowling, and getting our nails done, just doing fun things. And I've yet to receive that type of treatment. And I tell her, it's not my fault that you are 53 years old and you chose to just not do anything with your life. Like, guys, it is a sad truth. Some people really just will never change. And that's where that's where your relationship with God comes into play. And that's where my relationship with God definitely came into play. Like, I can't let that stop me. I can't let it stop me from growing. And the last thing I want to get into, hopefully my phone doesn't cut off. She would give me bad advice. Another thing about her being jealous, like, she would give me bad advice, like giving me unrealistic advice, standards she couldn't meet, encouraging me to live above my means just so she could watch me struggle. Like, for instance, my old apartment complex, I don't live there anymore, tried to raise my rent to $1,225. That's expensive for me to pay rent. And she was like, oh yeah, you can do that with flying colors. But my mom's home now that she rents for $800 a month. She needs my brother and I's help. Like, she has people helping her pay rent. It's like, and if she didn't have anybody helping her, she would not be able to afford to live on her own. But it's like, why are you encouraging me to do something that you can't do yourself. That's giving me bad advice, bad financial advice. The other day, she tried to encourage my brother to get a mattress that was way outside of his budget. And I had to go and talk to him, like, look into other options. Do not allow her to encourage you to put yourself in a hole financially, because she's in a hole financially. So she would love to see other people struggle. Misery loves company, unfortunately. I also learned that she spreads rumors. Like, I just really learned about how narcissists spread rumors, and they gang stalk, and they, get people to, they have flying monkeys or whatever. They get people to gang up on you. She'll go around telling people lies about me outside of the home, basically tainting my image. For example, when I was growing up, she would call me fast, when I was the exact opposite. I was the weird and goofy girl, definitely not the girl that guys were going after. But she would make it seem like I was her. I'm like, no, you were the one that was always in a guy's face. I was the one that was like in book clubs and after school programs. I played sports. I did stuff like that. I didn't have time for boys. That's probably why I didn't have my very first real relationship until my last year of high school, because that's when things really started to fall apart. But I've also learned recently, my mom, I've caught her in the act of putting words in my mouth and other people's mouths. And she'll just say things that aren't true. And I'm like, I can only imagine, and only God knows the other things that she's told people about me and about how I am, making me seem like a disrespectful, belligerent child, when really she's just evil. And that's between her and God. But an abuse, physical abuse. I was like beaten for every little mistake that I made, without her actually communicating what I did was wrong, like why it was wrong, and teaching me the right thing to do and why it's right. I was basically told, like, do as I say, not as I do. What happens in this house stays in this house. I'm the parent, you're the child. She still says that to this day, guys. In 2023, she still says, I'm the mother, you're the daughter. And I'm like, I almost want to tell her, I'm not your daughter anymore. You gave birth to me at one point in time, but I'm a child of God now. So you're going to have to take that up with my Heavenly Father. And He's taken the place of a father and a mother. He can do both. And that's why I'm so glad that God adopted me into His royal family, because this is my family. These are the types of people that I need to be around, that will love me and help me to grow, and, that I want to cherish things with. And I'll be glad to do my mission before the Lord returns. But when He does return, I would love to hear those words, well done, my good and faithful servant, and to join in the wedding feast in the royal kingdom, because there's just so much evil out here in the world. I'm going to tell a quick story, then I'm going to wrap up the video, guys. I remember when I was in elementary school, I was whipped for spitting on this girl. Basically, one of my mom's friends had a daughter, and she came over, wanted to play outside with me. All because I didn't want to play with the little girl. I didn't want to play the game she wanted to play. I was okay with doing my own thing. I was like, well, you know what? If you insist on playing this game and I want to do something different, it's okay if we just don't play with each other. Like, we can play with our separate games and then come back later. She literally went in my mom's house, lied and said